Merry Christmas, everyone, from the DooDoo Divas Smells Like Money podcast team. This special holiday edition features highlights from some of yours and our best loved episodes of the year. We hope you enjoy this recap edition.
What have been some of your biggest challenges in facing workers for your careers? And what are some of the things that you've been doing, knowing there's only one silver bullet, to overcome those challenges in these times?
Well, I think first the limited pool is huge, and I had a great conversation with ECI last night regarding kind of the stigma that's been put onto blue collar trade work. Somehow that's become less important than a college degree, and as we all know, that's absolutely not true. So I think from the ground up is a good starting point is really trying to break that stigma. It takes a big push from all of us to get out there and let people know that a trade skill is vitally important. And there's a lot of pride that can be taken in providing that kind of labor to your community. So I think right there, knowing that that's a big reason why I believe that the pool is limited these days is a great starting point to coming up with a solution.
We talked offline about sources of rapid, and most of us are now being aware that even though we've closed off a lot of I&I with mainline CI line or replaced spot repair and whatnot, there is still a great degree of I&I coming in that, I think they're attributing 70% are coming from house laterals, which obviously can't address that. But then a lot of it is from other structures, manhole, wet well, manhole, and they've often been neglected. They're just there. There's something in the street, drive over them and hear the dunk, and we really don't care about it. And so I'd like to focus this episode on the little manhole and how important, and even more important, how critical the lid and the ring enter that manhole as it relates higher. So without further ado, because this is really your wheelhouse, let's give some praise to the lowly manhole.
Well,
let's give it some love. We need to give the manhole some love.
Well, what's funny is the most iconic symbol in the sewer system is the manhole cover. It's the first thing you see to gain entry and access into the system. And it's also, according to EPA, the way that they account for a discharge is when the sanitary sewer and sewage discharges out of that particular location. So it's for years and years, I'd say easily 400 years. The casting, the manhole cover has been very simplistic in its design. And when we built these brand new systems years and years ago, we had a lot of water, storm, sewer systems combined. So the thing is, when they were built brand new, you didn't have near the issues of hydrogen sulfide. You didn't have the volume at the very beginning of building our infrastructure. You just didn't have that kind of volume. And you had a mixture of water intake and sewer intake. And so when you had the solution is dilution, to dilute the sewer, you have a lot of oxygenated, rich water flowing into the sewer system. So hydrogen sulfide was not really a big issue. When the EPA in the 70s started cracking down and saying, hey guys, we no longer want to pollute and join forces of our fresh water or any of our water sources. We don't want the sewer and the sanitary sewer commingled and mixed together. That's bad. We don't like that. People are getting sick. It's going into our fresh water. And what was happening too is that, especially in my home state of Texas, we started getting away pumping groundwater. And now the regulatory agencies want us to go to surface water. So now that we've converted more so to surface water and using a huge percentage of surface water, it makes this even a bigger issue because every time you have a discharge of sanitary sewer that comes out of the system, it automatically goes into the storm sewer system and goes into your rivers, your lakes, your creeks, all the places where we're getting our surface water. So EPA, again, being from Texas, I know the policies, I know what's happening here. We have probably more EPA SSO consent decrees than any state that I know of, right? I mean, it's San Antonio, it's Houston, Corpus Christi, Tyler, Texas, Beaumont, Texas. Like,
why is that?
Well, geographically wet weather event. So when you have a wet weather event and you have an old age leaking sewer system that can intake a massive amount of intake from inflow and I&I, these rain events overcapacitate, fill up the collection system. The collection system's in full, and then it purges out at various locations in the system. And that's when you get what's called an unauthorized discharge, which is raw sewage breaching the sewer collection system before it can make its way to the treatment. So something I was kind of thinking about this week was, there's so much emphasis on the wastewater treatment plant. You have sensors, reports, you have to be certified, you have to have all this stuff going on at the plant. And it's ultra critical to process this water, make sure it's clean so that it properly discharges into the creek. And that's at one single location. That's just at the plant. But the sewer collection system that's outside of the plant, it doesn't have any of those rules and regulations to the extent of the sewer plant, but the living environment and the humans and the people that live within the actual collection system, the people don't live at the sewer plant. They live and breathe in the environment of where the collection system is, but there's hardly any emphasis or requirements, stringent requirements that you have at a plant. But when those sewer systems overcapacitate, it's raw sewage, bacteria, fecal matter that is discharging into our living environment. And the environmental impacts that it's having just in Houston, Texas alone, we had accumulated $18 billion in SSO fine, $18 billion. So they came to the bargaining table and they negotiated to come up with a plan to fix our sewer system in Houston, Texas. And they negotiated of actual money spent on the direct sewer system of $2 billion versus spending $18 billion in fines and actually not fixing any. So EPA in Houston, the attorneys and the whole 9 yards, they got together and they've agreed to come to a $2 billion EPA consent decree. And but what kind of bothers me is this is our second EPA consent decree. We had one in the 90s. So the things that they did in the 90s, they didn't work. They didn't work effectively enough to keep us out of a second EPA consent decree within a matter of 20 years. The first one was in the 90s and we spent billions of dollars, and that's where trenches technology, where Houston was one of the very first cities to have a big mega EPA $1 billion consent decree. And so we learned some things there, but there was lessons learned and unlearned. And now those, in my opinion, some of those things are now being brought to light, which is the manhole cover.
What does the name 37 Water stand for? How did you come up? I know the story behind this, but other people that may be listening that have never heard of this may be completely unfamiliar with the significance of this number. So for their benefit, tell us how the company got its name and why this has become such an integral part of the brand.
Sure. 374 actually means 374 degrees centigrade, which is the temperature at which that water becomes supercritical. So our process is air supercritical water oxidation, which starts to happen at 374 degrees C. So hence the name, and basically that turns water into a supercritical fluid, which acts as an oxidant that will destroy virtually any organic compound. So our name originates from the process temperature at which we can start to operate.
Thanks for tuning in, and we wish you a happy holiday season filled with joy, good health, gratitude, and peace.